It's time to get ready for the Buffalo Bills Week 16 opponent, the challenges they present, and what the Bills need to do to deal with them today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of Go Bills and Buffalo's Run, also the co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. I'd also like to invite you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Hillsdale College. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost, and it's easy to get started. Well, folks, welcome in. Time for the primer, the Bills Patriots primer for Week 16. Let's get after it. The Bills back at home in Week 16 to host the New England Patriots. The game will be played on Sunday, December 22nd at 4:25 p.m. Eastern Time at Highmark Stadium in Orchard Park, New York. Remember, this game was flexed from 1 o'clock to 4:25 Eastern, so adjust accordingly. The game will be broadcasted on CBS. Ian Eagle is on the play-by-play. Charles Davis is the game analyst, and Evan Washburn is the sideline reporter. And, folks, those guys do a good job. One of the better broadcast crews, in my opinion. This will be the 130th all-time meeting between the Bills and Patriots. Of course, the first in 2024, but the 130th all-time meeting. The Bills have a 50-78-1 record against New England. Under Sean McDermott, they're 7-8, but they have won 7 of the last 9. The Bills enter this game at 11-3. They've already won the AFC East, currently the number 2 seed in the AFC. And, of course, the path to being the 1 seed is winning the last 3, and the Chiefs have to lose 2 of the last 3. And their remaining schedule, Houston on Saturday. On Christmas Day, they go to Pittsburgh, and then on January 5th, they go to the Denver Broncos. So what would you like for Christmas? Probably a couple of Chiefs losses. The Patriots are 3-11. There are 3 wins. Week 1 against the Bengals, Week 8 against the Jets, Week 10 against the Bears. Their losses have come to the Seahawks, Jets, 49ers, Dolphins twice, Texans, Jaguars, Titans, Rams, Colts, and Cardinals. Head coach of the New England Patriots, not Bill Belichick. It's Drake Maye, 38 years old. It's his first season as the head coach. Was a player for the Patriots for 8 seasons, 2008 through 2015, 2-time Pro Bowler, Defensive Rookie of the Year in 2008. Then he became the linebackers coach with the Patriots in 2019, held that position through 2023. And now he's their head coach, succeeding Bill Belichick. The quarterback for the New England Patriots is Drake Maye, 22 years old, 6'4", 225 pounds, first-round rookie, number 3 overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft out of North Carolina. And he started 9 games to this point, and the Patriots have a 2-7 record under Drake Maye. Let me tell you a couple things about Drake Maye before I give you the metrics here, because I'm really impressed with Drake Maye. And this is not necessarily the same vibe as when Zach Wilson came into the division or Sam Darnold came into the division or Mac Jones when he came into the division. This looks like they got a real shot at having a guy here. I'm really impressed. He's a tough, competitive player, good size, good arm talent. He can run. He's making a lot of plays. And the fact that he's making plays, and a lot of times in high-leverage moments, third downs, kind of some end-of-game stuff, for him to be doing that and being metrically decent this year with what I would label as potentially the worst supporting cast in the NFL, for sure the worst offensive line, and very underwhelming group of wide receivers, a couple of good tight ends, a couple of good running backs, but really no wide receiver talent that gets you overly excited. I'm impressed. You know, we talk about quarterbacks coming in and stepping into situations that foster the opportunity for them to play well. You wouldn't look at New England and feel like that's what Drake Maye has at all. but he's still playing well. And I think he's going to be a good player. I really do. So he's off to a good start on a bad football team with a terrible supporting cast. And coming out of North Carolina, not necessarily an offensive system that prepares him well for the NFL. His last season was a little bit more NFL caliber, but before that was not at all. So I didn't expect Drake Maye to hit the ground running like he has, but I think he's done a nice job. I know the results aren't very good, but I think there's a lot to be impressed with when it comes to Drake Maye, especially given the context of what he's stepping into. Metrically, he's completing 68.5% of his passes, 189 passing yards per game, 12 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, passer rating of 88.4. His EPA per dropback is minus 0.04. That's 21st in the NFL. He throws deep 8.2% of the time. That's 26th, so not a lot of deep shots on his deep throws, which are 20 yards or more down the field. 7 of 23, 230 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, passer rating of 72.5. Yards after catch, definitely part of the equation here. 56.4% of his passing yards come after the catch. That's 6th highest. He goes to his first read 68.5% of the time. That's 13th. Average time to throw, 2.55 seconds. That's 16th. Catchable ball rate, 76%. That's 11th. Very good. His off-target throw rate, 15.8%. That's middle of the pack, right at number 16. Turnover-worthy throw percentage, a little bit higher here, 3.9%. That's 26th. His drop rate, 3.6%. That's 13th. Pretty decent. Pressure rate. Boy, he's facing a ton of pressure. This offensive line is bad. 39% pressure rate. That's second most in the NFL. They don't do a ton of play action. 17% of the time they run play action. That's 30th. And their screen rate is 12%, which is 18th. So not blowing it out of the water, but the fact that he's at least like average, middle of the pack is pretty impressive. Obviously facing a ton of pressure. Very unique circumstances for him. And the numbers here with like the turnover-worthy throw percentage being a little higher, you kind of expect that. And I think Drake Maye is still at that point, obviously, 10 starts into his career where he's kind of learning what he can and cannot get away with. And I think any young quarterback's going to take some hard lessons along the way there. But when you think about the way that Drake Maye's performing and you compare him to the rest of his class, boy, he's looking a lot better than Caleb Williams. I think Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels have both played pretty well, but I think both of those situations are just a lot better for them to execute. So I think there could be some real answers. And of course, JJ McCarthy, he's out for the year. We're not going to get a chance to see him in Minnesota. Michael Penix with the Falcons makes his starting debut this week. So an interesting crop of quarterbacks that have entered the NFL. And look, Drake Maye just might be a good one for the New England Patriots. We'll see. All right, we'll talk about the rest of the Patriots offense here on the other side of it, folks, so be sure to stick with us. Today's episode is sponsored by Prize Picks. If you love watching the game, you're going to love Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy. Whether it's football, basketball, or any of your favorite sports, Prize Picks makes your holidays bigger and brighter. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks. Plus, this holiday season, they're giving away $30 million in rewards during Pixmas and offering 2 free picks in December. And when your picks hit, Prize Picks makes it easy to cash out. You can get your money in as fast as 15 minutes. This week, I'm looking at Josh Allen more than 252 passing yards. Jamar Chase more than 89.5 receiving yards. The Bengals are going up against Cleveland. It's quick, it's simple, and it's so much fun to challenge myself and my friends. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 instantly when you play just $5 on Prize Picks, which is run your game. It's that time of year, folks. The college football playoff is back, and with the newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports coverage of the college football playoff begins December 21st, starting with the college football playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern, leading into our first matchup, the Southern Methodist University Mustangs battling the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon. Then the Clemson Tigers look to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the college football playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. All right, let's talk about the rest of this Patriots offense that is coordinated by Alex Van Pelt. You know that guy. 54 years old, was the backup quarterback for the Bills for a number of years. He was the Bills' offensive coordinator in 2009. A couple of years of the quarterback's coach, kind of a quality control coach. Then he got a chance to run the offense in 2009. He spent time as a quarterback's coach in Tampa, Green Bay, Cincinnati. He's been a running backs coach as well. Was the Browns' offensive coordinator for 2 seasons, 2022 and 2023. Now he's the Patriots' offensive coordinator. Metrically, yeah, obviously not having a great season here. And, of course, these include all of the season, which are also the Jacoby Brissett starts. They are scoring 17 points per game. That's 31st. They pass the ball 57% of the time. They run it 43% of the time. I'm guessing they'd like that to be a little more even or even a little bit more run aggressive, but obviously a 3-11 football team that is trailing a lot. 25th in EPA per play on offense, 28th in EPA per pass. Decent running the football, 12th in EPA per rush. 34% conversion rate on third down. That's not very good. 29th. 46% scoring touchdowns in the red zone. That's 30th. Personnel-wise, they got a lot of work to do here to get better. At wide receiver, their best receiver, in my opinion, is Demario Douglas. Second-year player, works primarily from the slot. He's got a lot of juice, very explosive. The yards after catch, he's going to be part of that equation. He's their best big play threat on offense. Kayshon Boutte, one of their starting receivers, young player out of LSU. Some promise with him as a prospect. Had some questions along the way. He's made a few plays, but obviously still developing. Kendrick Bourne, he's played 9 games this year, so a late start to the season coming off of injury. One of those cerebral veteran wide receivers, a lot like Tim Patrick last week with the Lions. A veteran, not super dynamic physically, but professional route runner that can catch the football, good body control, good ball skills. And then Jalen Polk, high second-round pick by the New England Patriots. He really hasn't done much at all this year. He's been targeted 30 times and has 12 catches. I mean, just no efficiency yet, so he's got a long way to go. At tight end, this is probably the best part of their passing offense. It's Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper, 2 veteran tight ends. Hunter Henry, I think you should be well familiar with him. Just a classic, solid receiving tight end that I think when you look at the work that he's doing with Drake Maye, you go back to Justin Herbert's rookie season. Hunter Henry's been a really useful tight end for these young quarterbacks, and he's having a good year. Austin Hooper, your classic number 2 tight end, solid across the board, and they'll throw the ball to both of these guys. Running back, they got a decent tandem here. Ramondre Stevenson, you know all about him. He's been playing the Bills for a long time. Physical runner, right? Yards after contact, not super explosive, but he's going to lower his pads and he's going to churn out tough yards, and he's a physical runner. They have Antonio Gibson as the complementary back now. Can catch the ball a little bit. Obviously big and explosive, Antonio Gibson. I don't think he's a super technical runner, if you will. Vision issues. He's had fumbling problems in his career. But, big and athletic, so when he does get the ball, he does have some potency that comes with it. So far this year, the carry distribution is 193 carries for Stevenson, 86 carries for Gibson. Stevenson has 6 fumbles this year, which is a ton. I think he had 7 for his career prior to this season. Normally, Gibson's the guy with the fumble issues. He's only had 1 so far this year. That was what really kind of derailed him in Washington, was just fumbling the ball all the time. But I guess Stevenson got that problem now. Order of weapons in the passing game in terms of targets. Hunter Henry, their leading target getter at 81. Demario Pop Douglas, 70. And then there's the drop-off. Kayshon Boutte, 48. Austin Hooper, 45. Ramondre Stevenson, 38. Kendrick Bourne, 30, but in 9 games. So you got to keep that in mind. Jalen Polk, 30. Antonio Gibson, 20. That's how they spread around the ball. Their offensive line is, respectfully, it's unserious. This is the worst offensive line in football, and it's pretty disappointing when you think about trying to give a young quarterback a chance. For this to be the group in front of him is terrible. Their left tackle is Verdarian Lowe. I grade him as a replacement-level player. Their left guard is Layden Robinson, a rookie, big plotting type guy, not very athletic, kind of heavy-footed. I don't see a guy that's going to be a long-term answer, but he's a rookie that's getting a lot of playing time. Their center is Ben Brown. I label him as a replacement level player. Their right guard is Mike Onwenu, who's been a good offensive lineman for a number of years for the New England Patriots. Just got a nice contract extension, but you can't have just one good offensive line, and that's pretty much what they have. Their right tackle, Demontre Jacobs, boy, rough. Non-roster caliber type guy. I don't think you can't go to war with Demontre Jacobs at right tackle. So just three unserious starters in Lowe, Brown, and Jacobs, underwhelming rookie in Robinson, and then Mike Onwenu. Now, obviously, there's some guys here. Cole Strange, a first-round pick. He's been injured. We'll see if he can go this week. They activated him a while ago, so maybe he'll be an answer for them at left guard. They certainly have other guys that they'd like to have that are injured, but right now this group is just unserious. So what are my keys for the Bills' defense against this offense? Number one is dominate a bad offensive line. You got to destroy these guys. We shouldn't come out of this game wondering if the Bills have enough pass rush if you just think about that game specifically. The Bills' pass rush, these defensive linemen should eat up this offensive line. Absolutely eat them up. Number two is rep personnel groupings. The Bills have shown an appetite, at least in the Detroit game, to do some three linebacker stuff. They've used a dime player this year in Cam Lewis. They've played some man coverage, 20% man coverage rate. And you've got 3 games left to the playoffs. And I'm not sitting here saying that these are all scrimmages and tune-up games. You got to go win them. But if you want to carry some of this stuff into the playoffs, you have a great opportunity to get reps in time on task, right? I think that's probably been the best argument that the Bills have against their lack of willingness to match personnel, which maybe is changing, has been, well, we're really, really repped with this back seven, this static alignment of back seven players where we have a ton of reps. And so you want to start introducing different players. Well, now you're throwing away thousands of reps for none. Okay, decent point. Get the reps, right? Now get the reps so that you can do this stuff, because I think you saw situationally against Detroit how it helped you. Continue to sprinkle it in. Make sure that you have it ready to go for the postseason, because 3 linebackers, you might need it against Kansas City. You might need it against Baltimore. Be ready to do it. If you get to the Super Bowl, you're going to need it against Detroit. You're going to need it against the Eagles, potentially. Number 2, or that's number 2. Number 3 is don't sleep on Drake Maye's mobility. This guy can run. This guy can make some plays. I think he's averaging over 8 yards a carry. He'll take off. And it doesn't feel like the Bills have had a whole lot of issues with quarterback running. Of course, Goff was able to escape a couple of times and crank off some nice runs last week. But the Bills haven't faced a ton of guys that are willing to run and do that, right? Drake Maye will. So be mindful of that. And just overall the script, right? You know what the Patriots are going to try to do. They're going to try to run the ball, shorten the game, limit possessions, keep Josh Allen on the sideline. And they got a decent rushing offense, and they got a quarterback that can take off a little bit. So you got to kind of be ready for that. I don't know that this is going to be a team that's going to have success or an appetite for pushing the ball down the field. So come up and dominate the line of scrimmage, and make sure that this idea that they have of pounding the ball and shortening the game won't be successful against your defense, and you don't fall into their script, and instead you're the aggressive team. You're the one that gets points early and puts them in a position where they become one-dimensional. All right, folks, coming up on the other side of it, Bills offense against the Patriots defense. Be sure to stick with me. Time is our most precious commodity, so don't waste it scrolling through the same mind-numbing content for hours and hours. How can you spend it wisely to improve yourself? Our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free online courses, including Constitution 101, Introduction to Free Market Economics, The Rise and Fall of the Roman Republic, and a brand new documentary-style course on Marxism, Socialism, and Communism. All of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced that you can start whenever and tune in wherever. Plus, you can go deeper with readings, quizzes, discussions, or just enjoy the lectures. Go right now to hillsdale.edu to enroll. There's no cost, and it's easy to get started. That's Hillsdale.edu hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. hillsdale.edu/lockedon. As you know, we just had the rally on the river at Buffalo River Works, and that property is incredible. What a cool place. I mean, so many things to do. I mean, you can go ziplining. They have amusement rides. They have hockey rinks. They got multiple bars, restaurants, entertainment, just a super fun place to go. And I recently found out that their other location is the first brew pub in Buffalo, the beautiful red brick Pearl Street Grill and Brewery. Pearl Street just remodeled the main floor, so the dining room now converts into a stage for live music after Sabres home games on the weekends, and even during brunches, live music all year round. And of course, many Bills fans have been to weddings at Pearl Street or Riverworks, and their in-house wedding coordinators make the whole process easy, fun, and customizable. If you want an elegant, historic wedding with beautiful patios and sunset photos, that's no problem. How about a custom Buffalo Bills themed wedding? If you can dream it up, they can make it happen. This is also true for holiday parties, corporate events, team building, casual happy hours, and all kinds of different events. Also, sports fans, you can reserve groups to watch the games on the big screen at Riverworks, or if you're headed to a Sabres game this year, be sure to stop by at Pearl Street before, during, or after the game. Enjoy some live music, crispy wings that are now made in tallow instead of seed oils. That's exciting. My wife is very crunchy. She loves that. Or one of their new OM organic beers, which are absolutely delicious. Pearl Street Grill and Brewery and Buffalo River Works, the most authentically Buffalo venues for everything from dinner to live music to your perfect wedding. PearlStreetGrill.com or BuffaloRiverworks.com. Defensive coordinator for the New England Patriots is DeMarcus Covington, 35 years old. His first year as a defensive coordinator, he was a defensive assistant in New England from 2017 through 2023. Metrically, not having a good year. 24 points per game. That's 23rd. 27th in EPA per play. 28th in EPA per pass. 18th in EPA for rush. 42% on third down. That's 24th. They're 62% in the red zone. That's 23rd. They blitz 34% of the time, which is sixth highest. Their pressure rate is 29%. That is 29th. Their sack rate is very low, also 28% or 28th in sack rate. So they're blitzing, and it's not very effective. Personnel-wise, they got some good players here, some building blocks, some veterans that you know all about. Their edge rushers, Keon White, second-year player out of Georgia Tech, extremely athletic. He's coming on. And obviously, they're not ahead in games. They're not really able to tee off and really get after the quarterback. But Keon White has shown a lot of promise this year, a lot of growth in year two, that he can kind of be their next Matthew Judon type player. Dietrich Wise, he's been there 100 years, it feels like. You know exactly what he is. Long arms, heavy hands, compression-style player that has had some success against the Bills. Anthony Jennings, kind of a stand-up, rush outside linebacker, probably a better run defender than he is pass rusher, but kind of a very solid, across-the-board, typical hybrid Patriots edge player. And then they also have Yannick Ngakoue, who they got off waivers. Ngakoue, for the last 2 years, has done nothing. So he's had some pressure production and sack production throughout his career, but over the last few years, he's just bouncing around. And I think teams are trying to maybe squeeze whatever's left in the tank for Ngakoue, but boy, he's just not doing anything. Defensive tackle Devon Godchow, they love him. They keep extending him to contracts. He's like their nose tackle. I think he's upgradable, but a decent run defender. Daniel Equale, he's probably going to have to play a lot more. Some unfortunate news with Christian Barmore came through that he was having some health complications. Obviously, a late start to the year for him with health complications. So we wish him the best, and obviously a hit to this Patriots defensive line. So Daniel Equale, who I think is a replacement level defensive tackle. Eric Johnson, he'll also probably have some run in this game, another replacement level player. And Jeremiah Parms, a rookie, he'll probably get some run as well. At linebacker, Jelani Tavai is probably the name here. They typically like to have Tavai and Bentley. Bentley's injured. So Tavai is the steady presence back there. Typical Patriots linebacker, burly, 250 pounds, not a lot of range, physical downhill player. You just don't want him to play in space. Sione Taki gives them some range on the second level. I think he's more of a depth player ideally, but he's having to play. I think Christian Ellis might get some run as well, who's a young player. I think he started his career with maybe the Eagles, hasn't played much, and he's in New England and has to play a little bit. At corner, very familiar names here. Jonathan Jones, feels like he's been on the Patriots for 100 years. Decent player, right? Has filled a number of different roles in the secondary for them. Veteran, not super dynamic, but he's a steady player. He's given up 6 touchdown receptions, though, this year. Christian Gonzalez, this is the name. I think this might be their best player right now. Corner, their first-round pick last year. Looked great last year. Then he had a season-ending injury, and he's come back this year and looks like he's going to be one of the best young corners in the game. He'll trail and follow the number one receiver. That for the Bills, I don't know that's really a thing. But if the Bills had Stephon Diggs, he'd be the guy that Gonzalez would follow around. So he's a good-looking young player for sure. A lot of athleticism, big-time ball skills, physical player. In the slot, they'd like it to be Marcus Jones. Hip injury. He didn't practice at least on Wednesday. I'm not sure what his status is going to be. If he can't go, my assumption would be that they'd play the matchups a little bit more in the slot. They might move Jonathan Jones to the slot, and Alex Austin, a former Bills draft pick, could get some run. He actually picked off Josh Allen last year, Alex Austin, and I think there's a chance that he could be in line to start opposite of Gonzalez once they move on from Jones. At safety, the tandem of Jabril Peppers and Kyle Duggar. Kyle Duggar is just not having a good season. Really big drop-off. You kind of felt it last year, and it's steamrolled into this season. He's struggling. And then Jabril Peppers, I think he's a good player. I think he's been a good player for a while, an underrated guy. And he missed some time this year. He's back and kind of picks up right where he left off. I think him and Christian Gonzalez and Keon White, I think, are their best players on this defense. So what are my keys for the Bills on offense against this defense? Number one, aggressive. Be aggressive early, build a lead, and put New England in a situation where they're playing from behind against the Bills in Buffalo. I mean, good Lord, that doesn't sound good for them, right? In addition to, you'd like to get your work in, and like respectfully, I want to see Mitch Trubisky in the fourth quarter, right? Like, I have high expectations for the Bills. They're at home. They're multi-touchdown favorites. I think there's a major talent discrepancy here. Obviously, New England's a division team, and that's always funny. You look at Cleveland. They're not having a great year. They beat Pittsburgh and Baltimore this year. The Bills lost to the Patriots last year. The Patriots were terrible last year, too. So I definitely am not like overly assuming, but do everything that you can here to be aggressive, build a lead here, and get your guys out of the game, right? Like I think that's your ideal scenario if you can do it. Number two is this is not the week for Josh Allen to take hits, right? Just throw the ball and do cool stuff, but don't need to see Josh Allen taking hits. This is a terrible pass rush team. Their pressure rate is terrible. They don't get sacks. Not a week for Josh Allen all of a sudden be taking hits. And he hasn't, right? The Bills, he hasn't been sacked in 4 games. So I think that'll be fine. But even last week against Detroit, which, again, different game, getting outside of structure and taking some big hits and getting an x-ray after the game on his right shoulder. Like, don't need that going into the playoffs. So, Josh Allen, protect yourself. It's not the week to hurdle anybody. You don't have to fight for crazy yardage. Like, slide, get out of bounds. And this is not the week for Josh Allen to take hits. And number 3 is develop time on task. I'm excited about this Bills offense. Everybody in the world should be excited about it. But we really still haven't seen a huge inventory of games with all the weapons healthy. Cooper, Coleman, Shakir, Hollins, Samuel, Kincaid, Knox, the running backs. Like, they're all available to you right now. You got a 3-game runway right now to continue to work on your groupings and make sure that you have the time on task that's going to be foundational enough for you to execute in the postseason like you want to. So aggressive early, no hits for Josh Allen, develop time on task. Real quick on special teams, the kicker is Joey Sly. 6 seasons in the NFL, he's bounced around. Highly inconsistent kicker. This is one of those guys that like misses short field goals. Like, very much not automatic. This year, he's 23 of 30 on field goals, 77%, 19 of 20 on extra points. Bryce Behringer is their punter, second-year punter out of Michigan State, if I'm not mistaken. Good-looking young punter, and I think he's grown from year 1 to year 2. All the metrics look really good for Bryce Behringer. The returner, they'd like it to be Marcus Jones. I don't know if he's going to go. He's the only guy that's returned a punt for them this year, so that's something to be mindful of. Their kick returner has been mostly JaMychal Hasty, depth running back, kind of your classic third down type back. Hasn't had a major impact in the return game throughout his career. He's kind of had some chances over the last 4 years. I think his average is right at like 20 yards per return. So there you have it. New England Patriots. The team in the way of the Bills getting their 12th win of the season. Crazy, right? Rebuilding year, I was told. Transition year. Step back. On the doorstep of being 12-3 with 2 to play. Come on now. All right, folks, that's it for today. We got one more conversation coming for you this week. Some injury stuff, obviously, to get into with Dr. Kyle Trimble. Predictions, you know the drill. That's coming on Saturday. As always, I kindly ask that you share, subscribe, rate, and review. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills! And I look forward to catching up with you again real soon.